Let's finish off this episode by talking about a couple rule changes. And I know that sometimes it can get a little bit boring just talking about the CBA contract, what the new rule changes are, when they take effect. But there's one that if it takes effect a year early, as with some of these other rules from the CBA, it's going to seriously affect, or potentially seriously affect, if the Penguins choose to utilize it, one of, if not their top prospect in the minor leagues right now. Now, a couple months ago, the NHL and the NHL Players Association surprised everybody whenever they agreed to a CBA extension very, very early. You know, labor peace is not something that hockey fans are used to, especially when it's a year out from the new or the current contract coming to an end. But the NHL, the NHLPA, they came to an agreement and everybody was happy. It's supposed to take effect on September of 2026, but as we've learned in the past week, some rules are going to be rolled out this season. Some of those rules include a salary cap in the playoffs. So if you are somebody that was very upset about Nikita Kucherov and the over $18 million over the salary cap Tampa Bay Lightning a few years back, that's not going to happen anymore. If you're somebody that gets very upset about the Vegas Golden Knights letting Mark Stone sit on a beach somewhere, he's not doing that. He's actually rehabbing an injury. But Mark Stone not playing in the regular season, then coming back in game 82 or the first game of the playoffs, that's going to be harder for that to happen because there is going to be a playoff salary cap in the next iteration of the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2026. Not only that, but there's a couple other rules that have slid through and will take effect this year, including no double retaining on trades, which is going to make some things interesting around the deadline. Small things like there can be no team enforced dress codes. I don't know about you, but I enjoy the fact that NHL players are dressed up, coming off the bus on the road, getting to their home ice. I think it looks cool. And some players, Chris Letang, are still going to take full advantage of dressing up and looking nice coming to the rink. I think it just adds something to the NHL. But hey, listen, do what you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm sure some of these guys are still going to show up and show out when it comes to the walk-ins. Not something that actually affects the game. But there is a big one that it hasn't been confirmed that it's taking place this year, at least as of this recording. But one very major one would be that NHL organizations would be allowed to play one 19-year-old at the AHL level. And that's a big deal because before this rule change, you had to be 20 years of age or had competed in 4 complete CHL seasons to be able to move up to the American Hockey League. Otherwise, it would have had to be NHL or back to juniors, sliding that entry-level contract. And the reason that this caught my eye, the reason that I think this is a very, very interesting ruling to follow with is because it directly affects the Penguins' top prospect, Harrison Brunicke. Brunicke was recently ranked the number 1 prospect in the Penguins pool by The Athletic a couple weeks ago when they named the Penguins the 19th best prospect system in all of hockey, and Harrison Brunicke was leading the way there. But Brunicke dang near made the NHL last season at 18 years old. He got drafted, he came to Pittsburgh, and he impressed every single person that laid eyes on him throughout that training camp last season. And he almost made the team, if even for that 9-game tryout sample size before getting sent back to juniors. He was very close to making the team. In fact, if Erik Karlsson, who was dealing with an injury and really didn't participate at all in training camp, would have been injured to start the season, missed a week or so, it would have been, not probably, it would have been Harrison Brunicke who took his spot for those couple of games. So he was that good at 18. Now a year later, after dealing with a little bit of adversity, being injured throughout a large portion of his season last year in the WHL, forcing him to miss the opportunity to play in World Juniors for Team Canada, he was able to put some things together. He closed out the season playing very good hockey. He came over to the AHL to get a cup of coffee with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, and guess what? He played very good hockey there as well. He came to the rookie development camp this summer. You know what? He played very good hockey there. Every time this kid has been put in front of Penguins fans' eyeballs, He has excelled. He has impressed. He has proven that he is mature beyond his years, specifically in his own zone. So that brings us to this season. If this rule is taken into place, maybe it is the perfect opportunity to stow Harrison Brunicke at the Wilkes-Barre Scranton level. It's the perfect opportunity for him to actually play on the first year of that 3-year ELC. It's the perfect opportunity for him to take that next step and really immerse himself in professional hockey. Coming into the camp, making the NHL squad is going to be difficult. There's just a lot in front of the kid. Erik Karlsson is still on the right side. Chris Letang is still on the right side. Matt Dumba is still on the right side. Connor Clifton is still on the right side. And even if, I've seen this thrown around a couple times, even if one of those four end up moving to the left side, there's still 3 NHL caliber defensemen that are likely going to get ice time over Harrison Brunicke on the right side. And you're not going to keep him at the NHL level to put him up in the press box and make him be a healthy scratch. So it's going to be very hard for him to make the team out of camp. Now, is it impossible? No. I'd imagine the door is slightly ajar, especially with Erik Karlsson's situation being as up in the air as humanly possible. I would imagine the door is slightly ajar for Harrison Brunicke, but more than likely, his destination, if this rule change doesn't go through, is back to the WHL, which is unfortunate. There are some that believe, yeah, he could use a little bit of seasoning, but I don't think it's a whole year. I don't think it is an entire season that he needs down at the WHL level. Personally, from what I've seen, I think that he could use that jump to play against AHL level talent, to play against professionals. Now, I think short term, he's likely going to show out again. That's the only thing he's been able to do in Pittsburgh is be impressive, like I mentioned. And with the current rules, it would be, hey, you either make the team or you go back to the WHL. But with this new rule, I'd love to see him get the opportunity to start the season at the AHL level, even at 19 years old. Because while at the beginning of the season, he might, run into some speed bumps. He might have a couple of issues acclimating to the pace of play, acclimating to the physicality of professional hockey. It's something that I think would help move his progression faster than putting him back at the WHL for a full year. Because while he might have some edges to smooth out in his game, I feel like if he goes back to juniors, you're running the risk of him plateauing halfway through the year and then having to be there the rest of the year. If you bring him to the AHL, and utilize this rule, you get him in a position where he's playing with some of the top prospects in your entire system, guys that you're hoping he grows chemistry with, guys that you're hoping he joins as that next core of Pittsburgh Penguins. Guys like Tristan Brose, guys like Owen Pickering if he starts the season down there, guys like Emil Pianiniemi, who's going to be starting the season at the AHL level, guys like Sergei Murashov at the AHL level. Getting the opportunity for him to come and start at that level, I think is a positive. And if the NHL pushes this rule through as one of the few rules that are going to be rolled out a year in advance, I think the Penguins need to take advantage. And I think they need to take advantage by propelling their top prospect into a uncharted territory that I feel he is uniquely qualified to handle. I do. And it's the same thing as when you look at Rucker McGroarty last year. A lot of people said, yeah, maybe he's close to NHL ready. Then he started the AHL season and it was rough. Why? Because he was making the jump to playing against men. He was making the jump to playing professional hockey. But guess what? By the end of the season, he was one of the best, if not the best player on that Wilkes-Barre Scranton team. And it was undeniable that he was ready to move up to the NHL. If you put Brunicke in the same situation this year, I think it might garner the same results. And I think it could significantly expedite his maturation. Now, part of this is you want to make sure you get it right. It's not all about getting there first. It's about getting there with the right player at the right level whenever he is ready. And Jason Spezza has mentioned that on multiple occasions. It's not about getting them up here quickly. It's about getting them up here when they're ready. But I think moving Brunicke to the AHL, if that door opens, it's a door the Penguins should explore. Let me know in the comment section. Do you agree with me? Do you think it's a little bit too much too fast? If this rule goes through, would you utilize it to pull Harrison Brunicke up and let him be that 119-year-old that can be stowed at the American Hockey League level? But that's going to do it for this episode of the Tip of the Iceberg. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this one. And once again, I cannot continue to thank these guys enough. Joe Smith, State of Hoppy, all the guys over at the Soda Pod. Appreciate you sending over that conversation you had with new Penguins forward Justin Brazeau. But that's going to do it for this one. We'll see you guys next time.